did you know that in 1949, Ernest Holmes, the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, the author of The Science of Mind that we teach from, had a live radio show every week in Los Angeles on ABC radio. And the show was called This Thing Called Life. This Thing Called Life. And you can actually hear recordings of it on the Founders Church website in Los Angeles. That's the church that Ernest built, so to speak, in downtown LA. And they have maintained and archived those recordings of his shows. And when he decided that it was time for him to continue to grow his ministry in other ways in the 1950s, he turned that over to Bill Hornaday. And then on Bill's passing, Arthur Chang, who is the current minister over at Founders, is continuing the tradition. So there's been 3 voices on that radio show, and it continues today. It's on the internet now as opposed to on the radio, but it does continue. Now, Holmes would open that show every week with a quote: "There is a power for good in the universe that is greater than you are, and you can use it." Every week he said that to the Los Angeles audience. And he then spent his lifetime teaching us how to do that, teaching us how to do it. Now, a friend of mine this week posted, it's been funny this morning, before I get to that, it's been funny this morning that everything has come together. Daniel's quote was perfect. And again, we did not coordinate this. This is all, it's a God thing that it comes together that way. Eddie's song is perfect, as you'll hear more about. And but this meme popped up this week, and I borrowed it. It says, "Learning how to love is the goal and the purpose of spiritual life." Learning to love is the goal and the purpose of spiritual life. Love is truth, love is light. And again, Eddie's song had some great clues about my talk today, which is the power of love. The power of love. And we're going to be exploring this morning this power for good that Holmes talks about and how we can use it in our lives today. All faith traditions, or most all faith traditions, talk about God is love, God as love, love is God. We've heard that before. And yet many struggle with what really is love. And we spend our time and our energy sometimes trying to define it, explain it, compartmentalize it, this kind of love, that kind of love, right? Doing all those things. But if we go back to that idea of God is love, love is God, are we trying to define and compartmentalize and explain God? Yeah. Science of Mind defines love as the self-givingness of the spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation. He uses a Bible quote, "He that loves not knows not God, for God is love." He goes on to say that love is free from condemnation, even as it is free from fear. Love is a cosmic force whose sweep is irresistible. And this is what we mean when we say in our teaching, you hear me say a lot, that we are expressions of spirit. And that spirit is constantly creating through us by expanding through us and our lives, and that we're that leading edge of consciousness that we talk about. That's what we're saying, is what Ernest was telling us about the self-givingness of God to to life. But you may be thinking, now, if this is true, why is there so much bad stuff in the world? Why is there so much bad stuff in the world? If God is love and love is God, and that's what we're all here for. Well, I'm going to go back to the first week of this month when we started our series about love. And we talked about self-love, didn't we? We talked about self-worth, self-respect, self-care. And I think when we are experiencing a lack of self-love or a lack of self-worth, that it can be very difficult to accept this idea that we are manifestations of God, that we are that leading edge of conscious expansion. No, I can't be that. I can't accept that. Maybe that much, not that much. It can be hard to really accept that if we have an issue with our own self-worth. Through the feelings of unworthiness, we're choosing to limit what is truly unlimited. We're choosing to say no. It's not God holding back, but it's our free will and choice that blocks God's givingness. It reminds me of the story I've told many times because it's such a great example of the older couple that's driving down the road, and they pass a younger couple in a pickup truck sitting really close together, all snuggled up, and the wife goes, I remember when we used to do that. And her husband's driving along, and he looks over and he goes, I haven't moved. And that's how it is. God doesn't move, right? God doesn't move. It's us who can move away from spirit. It's us who can limit that flow into our lives. A Course in Miracles says that only love is real, and that our only response to something or someone who doesn't seem to be love is to recognize it as a call for love. You heard that in Eddie's song. And that's certainly not always easy to do when we perceive that call as an attack. What happens? We get defensive, right? Anytime we feel attacked, we get defensive. But what the Course is suggesting to us is that we not be defensive, but that we realize that's a call for love. And the attack is a response. It's a programmed response. It's not an attack. So I'm going to be love in this moment. I'm going to be love in this situation. That's not always easy to do, though, is it? Because we have this DNA that says, protect yourself. But that's the power greater than we are that we can use. That's the power of love. Choosing to be love every day is how we can use this power greater than we are. And it was the basis of the Master Teacher Jesus' message when he said, turn the other cheek. The meek will inherit the earth. He wasn't telling us to be weak. He was telling us to be love. It's a mystical message where if someone is striking you, he is suggesting turn the other cheek and be love in that moment rather than being resistance and strike back. It was a mystical teaching that I know I missed as a child. I got the other message about, to be a Christian you had to be weak. That was the message I received as a small child through that teaching because it was not explained in that way, that it was truly a teaching of love. There's a story from our journal from this past week about a man who is in his a rowboat out in the San Francisco Bay. San Francisco can be very foggy, right? Particularly in the mornings. And he's out and he's gliding across the water and he's just having this lovely, lovely time. And the dawn begins and the sun's beginning to come up. And he notices another boat coming towards him, another small boat coming his direction. And he's waving the boat off and saying, hey, change your course, change your course. The boat keeps coming, the boat keeps coming. He yells a little bit louder, change your course. Boat keeps coming. Sure enough, the boat hits him, broadsides him, almost knocks him into that cold, cold San Francisco Bay water. And so he's now furious. And he's screaming at the guy in the boat, right? Why didn't you? And then he notices there's nobody in the boat. You see, this boat had come loose of its moorings. And it was simply floating on the current in the bay and happened to be coming in his direction. Now, when he finally noticed this, his anger dissipated, and he began to laugh at himself for his silliness in that moment of telling this boat that was simply floating on the current that it needed to change its direction. So the moral of our story is to seek understanding before being understood. Had he understood about that boat being adrift, perhaps he could have moved out of the way. Perhaps he could have moved out of the way. Another way that we can access this power of love is to give others the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if you've ever heard that. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if it's true and I don't know if it's false, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because you believe it's true, right? That can sometimes be how that's presented. And what it means really is, believe it or not, we don't know everything. Sorry, I know. We don't know everything. When faced with someone or a situation that is unverified to be false. How about that? Got your mind around that? It's unverified that it's false. You may not believe it, but they believe it. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Concede innocence until proven guilty. It's a basic tenet of our legal system, right? Innocent until proven guilty. And yet we will argue with someone about something when we believe this is true and they believe that's true, and we spend all this energy going through this process. The benefit of the doubt gives them the concession that they're correct or what they're saying is justified if the contrary to that has not been proven. Think in your life, just this week, how many arguments could you have avoided by doing that, by giving them the benefit of the doubt? Remember the kindness challenge in November that we did here? A lot of us participated in that and had some powerful results from it. One of the things that I took away from it was this process and this idea of the benefit of the doubt. And if I'm suspect of something that I'm being told or reading or seeing, I'm now choosing to not always argue the point. Notice I said, no, I'm choosing not always to argue the point. I'm still working on it. I'm a work in progress. But to give the source the benefit of the doubt, saying things like, I didn't know that. I haven't heard that. I don't know about that. Isn't that interesting? All of which is not committing on my part, and yet is giving a step back to provide time to investigate if it's important. I can go do my own research and validate, verify my point or theirs, whichever, taking a step back rather than a step into argumentation. And if it's really important, I may go back and have another conversation with that person. And notice if it's really important. Otherwise, I'm going to let it go, right? I'm going to let it go. Because what usually happens, after the moment, we usually forget about it anyway, don't we? So why create that energy of argument when we can simply give them the benefit of the doubt? My third point today is asking myself if I'd rather be happy or right. Did we hear this earlier today? I have found as I've grown in this teaching that having some questions in my arsenal of thoughts, remember we've got about 60,000 of those things in our head bouncing around all day long, and if I'm choosing to have better control of my mind, I have this little drawer system in my brain, now my mind, where I have filed away some of these thoughts that I can pull out in times of insanity. Anybody else have insane moments during your week, during your day? You kind of go, okay, this is one of those moments. I need to recapture sanity, and this drawer in my head has sanity written on it, sanity check. Open it up and begin to pull out some of these questions. Asking myself, is this important enough to argue about that I lose my joy, that I lose my happiness, that I give them the power to take my happiness, to take my joy? Is it important enough for that? Some things are. Is everything? No. Another question that I might ask myself is, why am I afraid? If I'm in a meeting and I'm feeling like I'm being attacked, I feel that attack energy, and we've already said our response is defense, right? If I'm going to be love or choose love in that moment, to get there is that question of fear, right? Because it's a call, my defenses is a call for love because I'm fearful. What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? And to begin to break that down begins to open my heart and allow me to recognize what's happening. So having those questions for yourselves to regain your sanity in those crazy moments when life is throwing things at us can sometimes be a tool in our toolbox that we can use for our own greater peace, our own greater joy. Another is, what would love do, as we said? Knowing that God and love are the same thing, how powerful is it to ask yourself, what would God do in this situation? The Christian faith has what would Jesus do, and that's been used a lot in their tradition to question our actions before we take them. And we don't have an intermediary in the science of mind, so ours is, what would God do? It changes the perception of that conversation, doesn't it? What would God do in this moment? What would my higher self, my higher wisdom do in this moment? So if learning to love is the goal and the purpose of spiritual life, as we said earlier, spending some time in the silence, getting to know God, and learning how to love more is to become more aware of our choices throughout the day and our impact that our choices have, not only on our own lives, but on the lives of those around us. I love the analogy of, walk a mile in my shoes. And if you think about how sometimes you might come home upset from an interaction with someone, imagine if you've created the interaction with them and they go home and they're upset. And so our impact on others is important, isn't it? Our impact on others. Again, we're back to that kindness challenge idea of spreading kindness in the world. And we can do that in this process as well. Asking simple questions of our higher wisdom allows us to align ourselves with love and then to be that love in all of our interactions. What I've realized this week in being with this material and the reading and so forth is that there really isn't anything that any of us have to do to use this power that's greater than we are. There's not anything we really have to do because it's automatic. We're already working within this system of love. It's created of infinite love. The system is perfect. And we live, move, and have our being in it. It's automatic. It works for us. So when we start making these choices in our life to be love in a loving system, imagine what begins to happen in the ripple effect in the world of effects around us. We simply need to awaken to that magnificence, that spiritual magnificence that we are, and make better choices every day. Make better choices every day. So let's take a look at our spiritual tools for this week and see how we maybe can better understand this power and use it in our lives. And as Diane mentioned, don't forget to sign up for Mindful Monday. You can do that in the lobby if you're here and haven't done so. If you're online, you can send me an email and I will add you to the list. And this gives you the notes and quotes and more details on the spiritual practices that you can use throughout the week to take the message home with you and really apply these tools, these spiritual tools, into your life. So number one is, don't be a rowboat. Don't be a rowboat. Recalling the story of the man in the San Francisco Bay fog, we sometimes walk around in a fog ourselves, don't we? We sometimes walk around in a fog, making everything around us wrong. Let's not be the ones who've lost our moorings and broadside. Don't let the ones that have lost their moorings broadside your life, right? This week, be curious and inquisitive in your interactions. Choose first to understand others before reacting to what you think is going on. Recognizing it may be a call for love. Number two is, doubt can be a good thing. Now, we usually talk about doubt as a bad thing around here. Don't doubt your spiritual mind treatment after you've said it. Don't doubt your affirmations, right? Don't tell your dreams and aspirations to someone that's going to cast doubt upon them. Right? You've all heard me deliver that message. But in this case, doubt's a good thing. In this case, we're going to say doubt is a good thing. And it's a recognition that we may not have all the information. Just maybe. We don't know everything. Maybe. Leave a little room for that. If we honestly don't know, practicing allowing the ego to let go, to not have to be right, to not have to win, to simply step back and give the benefit of the doubt. Give the gift. Look at it as a gift of the benefit of the doubt. This week, at least once, practice conceding that a person or statement is correct or justified if you don't know for sure that it's false. How about that? Got it? Practice conceding that a person or statement is correct or justified if you don't know for sure it's false. Then see what shifts in your perspective. See what's possible. Give them the benefit of the doubt. And number 3 is to choose joy. We're each responsible for our own feelings. Yes? We're each responsible for our own feelings. This year, our theme is a year of joyous living. And I'm choosing joy. I'm choosing more joy in my life. I'm also recognizing where I have limited joy in my life, where I have made choices to do or have or be or experience things that are not so joyful, where I've not made room for or space for it. And I am consciously making choices to bring more joy into my life. So the other side of that is then eliminating the things that don't bring me joy. Eliminating those things that don't bring me joy. When I allow negativity or arguing or stress into my day, has a tendency to not be joyful. Right? Has a tendency to not be joyful. Oh, I can't prevent those things. Actually, we can. Those are choices, aren't they? Negativity, ours or someone else's. Arguing, giving the benefit of the doubt, stepping back from those. This week, I invite you to ask yourself, would I rather be happy or right? Would I rather be happy or right in all of your interactions? Is this worthy of giving up my joy for? Is it worth giving away my power? Is it worth giving away my happiness? I'm going to choose happiness. I hope you will too. Yeah. And it really comes down to making a choice every day. Every day. When we wake up in the morning, am I going to choose love or not to love? Am I going to choose to love or am I going to choose to not love today? Imagine that as your first waking thought. What do you think your answer would be? I'm not going to love anybody today. I'm going to choose to be cranky. Probably not. I don't necessarily think that anybody really gets up like that. So choose to be love. I will close today with a quote from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. He says, "We know there is a power far greater than we are. There is a love that casts out fear and a faith that overcomes all obstructions. We must permit ourselves through affirmative thinking to enter into this power and this love with complete confidence. If we can believe that the Spirit within us, God, makes perfect and happy the way before us, we then enter into conscious union with everything that lives and commune with the Spirit in all people and all things. There then develops an intimate relationship to the presence and the power which controls everything. And we know we can trust it. We know we can trust it." Would you join me for a prayer to anchor this morning? As we go within, we recognize that there is one life, and that life is God. We recognize that there is only good. We recognize there's a power and a presence greater than we are. We recognize the infinite intelligence. We recognize that God is love. It is wisdom and it is all that is. And all of it is here now present in, through, and as this moment, in, through, and as me as an expression of it, in, through, and as each and every person in this room, each and every person listening online, now or later. For we are all connected in the wholeness and the oneness that is God, that is that infinite love that created all, that is us. We are united in that infinite, unconditioned love. And so knowing this, I know that love is the grandest healing and drawing power in the universe. I know that it is the most transformative power in the universe, and I know that we are immersed in it, as it, through it now. And I know that we are guided and guarded in all of our endeavors, whatever they may be. And that Spirit moves before us, making straight the crooked roads, the twists and the turns, and leveling those things out so that life is in flow with ease and grace and comfort. And that we are each prospered by all of our activities, in our career or creative expression, in our relationships, in our finances, in our spiritual life, in our health, that we are abundantly blessed and prospered. I know for anyone that has anything on their mind today that they are seeking prayer for, as we lift that into the consciousness of this prayer in this community, that we hold that in this light, in this wisdom and knowledge. And we know that whatever needs to be answered is made clear, that whatever needs to be healed, that healing is revealed. And that whatever needs to be straightened out is straightened out, and the way is revealed. And how grateful I am for this, knowing that the power of prayer works in our lives. We see it demonstrated in our own lives and the lives of others in this community. And we are just so very blessed to be together in the one as the one. And so it is with great joy and thanksgiving that I release this prayer into that action of law, that activity of mind, this universal system in which we live that is here to support us in each and every endeavor of life through the power of love. I know that it's already done because I know that's how the law works. And so I release it, I let it go, I let it be, knowing that it is so, and we affirm together. And so it is.